All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, and Kakwadash. Giving double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. And shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another quick lesson, in the wake of this guy, Grla Hebrew. It was just something that was on my spirit, to bring out. This guy, professes to be a prophet, and he also professes to be a gang member, but in reality, this man is, what we used to call back in the early 90s and, late 80s, early 90s, he is a studio gangster, also studio prophet, a false prophet. This man has been shown to trick off, $42,000 in 1 year on Eve, Keisha. That's not even in the truth, which, his women, that's his business. But, the problem lies is where, it's supposed to be the tithe money, man. That's the allegations against this man. But, basically, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is exposing this man, for the whole congregation to see, and right here I have queued up, when he met Apostle Tahar, Apostle Gabar, in New York, man. And this man just showed blatant disrespect. The way he greeted Apostle Tahar was absolutely, utterly ridiculous, man. But we're going to get into that. But we're going to see, what a studio gangster is. This man rubbed elbows with a known freak, Mo, Adam 22. You going on his platform for clout. But why would you even associate yourself with somebody that said, the best way to spit in the Most High's face is to I can't remember what he said, but he said whatever he was doing, that's the best way to show that he could spit in the Lord's face. But anyway, a studio gangster is a term used to describe someone, typically a rapper, who raps about violence and crime without having actually experienced them. Often perceived as an act or persona created for the music industry. But, this man is a rapper. And he said he's a gangster. But, by his actions, he's one of those people that idolize. He idolized the men in the streets. And he also idolized the apostle and elders, man. Starting with the apostle to hold down. So basically, he molded himself into the things that he wanted to be. And he found the avenue through the truth, man. But basically this man is a phony. It says the concept, the term studio gangster emerged in the hip hop scene, particularly in the context of gangster rap, to critique artists who portray a tough street hardened image through their music, Salakia, but lack genuine experience with the realities of gang life. This man doesn't display those characteristics, in that life, as well as in this truth. And that's what we're gonna focus on, man. We're gonna focus on this truth, because that gang mentality, is phony, man. What kind of man, would allow anyone, female, male, whoever, man, to play with that anus, man. This man is gone. This man, he gets his anus played with, man, which is out of control. And even if he didn't follow through with the act, he considered it, man. This man said, 3 inches, that's enough. That's the perfect size. For your mind to even go there, man, you gone. You're far gone. There's no turning back. And there's no doubt, man. This man has went through with something. Whether it be not to get too graphic, man, but something has tampered with that area, man. But anyway, the man is a false prophet. Now he's been found out to be tricking off tithe money, man. So, matter of fact, let's get into the scriptures, and then we're gonna get into the video that's queued up to show you the blatant disrespect that this man displays, man. So we'll go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, and verse 23. This book of Proverbs, chapter 23, and verse 23, it says, "Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding." So this truth is not to be sold, man. The apostles and elders of Great Millstone, along with the camp heads, the all the way down, man. Nobody asks for money. You don't ask the public for money, man. You don't have a super chat. You don't have a cash out for the public, man. So this man is selling the truth. Now it's said that he's selling debate styles or something like that. So this man is way off. But anyway, now we get into the blatant disrespect that this man displayed to someone that's probably old enough to be his grandfather, man. And if not his grandfather, his father. You don't disrespect anyone, let alone in this truth, man, like that. Especially your elders, man. Somebody who's been laboring for as many years as you are old. But watch the blatant disrespect this man displays.
Say a few words in the camera, brother.
There you go.
Hey. Because he likes the spotlight.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey, man, I'm just humbled to be here. 9 years ago, I seen the video of this motherfucker right here, all right? Teaching right here, man. So it's an experience to be right here, man. You know what I'm saying? So woke me up to this truth. So I'll praise y'all about y'all.
And he's out here, man. He's on the road, man. He's always out there.
He's your rebellious son.
That's my rebellious son.
That's right.
In the spirit. Rebellious. We're spiritual men here.
And we got a love-hate relationship.
That's right.
I love to hate him and he hates me. And so what happened? You ain't going to the...
Nah, I'm going to be up there. I said, bro, I had to cut out. I said, I got to come down to see you, though.
I knew you was... What did I say last week?
You said he was going to come.
This man is not coming in a humble spirit. He called Apostle Zahar, whether in a joking manner or whatever, man. He said, this MF, which is blatant disrespect, man. I could never imagine letting that come out my mouth, speaking to really the top elder, man. In the nation of Israel, really, 100% truth, man. The man that taught him. But so you come back and display a blatant form of disrespect like that, man. So Yahweh Shemel Shai is really exposing this man, and there's no coming back. He might as well forget it. He got his few followers, but within the congregation, man, it's over, man. The respect factor for this man, which he probably really never had anyway, is completely gone, man. So let's see. I know it's let's see.
Yeah, come through.
Yeah, I got it.
Well,
Like,
we know.
the damn bomb went off, but I was going to come up here. That was last year when I was out. Yeah, I was coming, you know what I'm saying? But the bomb went off, so I just stayed in Brooklyn. But I said, yeah, this time we're going to make, you know what I mean? I'm going on later anyway. We probably, Jake, we're going to probably start the event late, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I got something for them niggas, man. I got something. I was out there with them for like 5 hours dealing with them niggas yesterday, you know what I'm saying?
That's a fucking waste of time with them guys.
Yeah, nah, I was just doing it to kill my time, you know what I'm saying?
I know your heart is right. You try to wake them.
Well, I don't know if this clip, I didn't play it all the way through, but at one of them clips, man, he was, calling Apostle Hard nigga, man. Blatant disrespect. But, Yahweh Shem Shai has exposed this man. We ain't gonna spend too much time on this on Pegatron, but we just gonna bring it out on this man. It's over for this man. So we're gonna go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 and verse 10 in the NLT. It says, "But I, the Lord Yahweh, search all hearts and examine secret motives. I give all people their due rewards according to what their actions deserve." So this man being exposed, Yahweh Shem Shai searched his heart and saw his motives and exposed this man. Now he's getting his due reward. Shame is being spewed upon this man, but in the midst of it, he's still proud, so if he keep that pride going, man, Yahweh Shem Shai is really gonna do something to this man, for the whole congregation to see, even more. Even more. So let's go to the book of Romans, and this really explains, what this man has done, So this is the book of Romans, chapter 1 in the NLT, and this is Grla Hebrew chief priest Alazar all the way, man. All right, it says, For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and the sky. Through everything Yahweh Shem Shai made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing Yahweh Shem Shai. Yes, they knew Yahweh Shem Shai, but they wouldn't worship him as the Most High Yahweh Shem Shai, or even give him thanks. They began to think up foolish ideas of what Yahweh Shem Shai was like, doubting, coming up with your own doctrine, saying the teachings of Paul were not accurate, coming up with your t-shirt and fringes. Oh, he took that from IUIC, man. He's taken a little bit of everything from a lot of people and came up with his own doctrine. And Yahweh Shem Shai has exposed him for the man that he is. It says, they began to think up foolish ideas of what Yahweh Shem Shai was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused, saying the teachings of Paul were not to be taken seriously, It says, claiming to be wise, they instead become utter fools, spending the tithe money on women, and that's just one, I'm sure it's many. It says, and instead of worshiping the glorious ever-living power, they worship idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. It says, so Yahweh Shem Shai abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desired, getting pegged, man. Getting pegged. It says, as a result, they did vile and degrading things with each other's bodies, getting stuff rammed up in you, man. This man is gone. It says they traded the truth about Yahweh Shem Shai for a lie. So they worship and serve the things Yahweh Shem Shai created instead of the Creator himself, who is worthy of eternal praise. Man, just blatant disrespect. Not saying, and this man said Yahweh Shai was not to be worshipped. So doom is in this man's future. It says that is why Yahweh Shem Shai abandoned them to their shameful desires. Even the women turned against the natural way to have sex and instead indulged in sex with each other. He probably indulged in that too. It says, and the men, instead of having normal sexual relations with women, burn with lust for each other. Why you on Adam 22's platform, man? You know what this man stands for, man. This man is a blatant freak. It says men did shameful things with other men. I don't know if he did that or not. I'm not saying he did, but he's around those type of people. It says, and as a result of this sin, they suffered within themselves the penalty they deserved. Since they thought it foolish to acknowledge Yahweh Shem Yahushua, he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never be done. Their lives became full of every kind of wickedness, sin, greed, hate, envy. This man hate authority. He hates, really deep down, he hates the authority of the apostles, man. It says even envy, murder, quarreling, deception, malicious behavior, and gossip. And we see them gossiping all day long now, man. It says they are backstabbers, haters of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, insolent, proud, boastful. That's him. They invent new ways of sinning, and they disobey their parents. Disobey their spiritual parents. Absolutely no respect for the apostles, man. This man went on a whole rant about Yahweh Shem Yahushua taking the apostles out. It says they refuse to understand, break their promises, are heartless, and have no mercy. It says they know Yahweh Shem Yahushua's justice requires that those who do these things deserve to die, yet they do them anyway. Sodomy. It says, worse yet, they encourage others to do them too, pimping your wife. So, this man is over. And, Lord willing, is edifying. We want to constantly give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Rakakwadash. Shalom.